very excited to have my good friend Philip here with me today, and we are going to be talking about pricing. So I'm assuming that lots of people are going to have questions about pricing. So before we get right into it, Philip, would you like to give us a little introduction of who you are and what you're all about?
My name is Philip. I'm a pricing consultant. Basically, everybody has to have a mission these days, I think. And in my view, it would be a better world if experts got paid. I don't know, paid well. Basically, it's then my mission to achieve just that. I work with expert people who either work alone or in small studios. I work with designers, and I work with architects. I work with lawyers, everybody who is really basically smart. And that's a problem when they have to explain their value to the client, because, clients know what they want. They just don't always know what they need. And they may ask, Tracy, why don't you do logos? I thought you did personal branding, right?
And I think you guys all know the answer to that question, hopefully, if you've ever watched one of my lives before. I think this is so important because oftentimes what I see is people who, so they have their realm of expertise, and they're also so passionate about helping in their given arena that sometimes they're just like, oh, I'll discount this so people can have it. And it's a really interesting conversation because I do believe that it is a balance. You have to feel good about what you're going to say your price is, otherwise you won't. But having worked with Philip myself, there's a lot of great knowledge that Philip has that goes into pricing. That's not just feeling. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So hi, Tara. Tara's joining us on live. So we're here to answer your questions. So if you guys have questions, please pop them in the chat, and Philip will answer those. I also want to just note before I forget, because I have a hard stop at the end of the hour and then I rush and then I forget all the things. But if you guys don't already, you should follow Philip on LinkedIn. He is always sharing great pricing tips, and he also has an Ask Philip Q&A series that he's doing right now. And you guys can, I think it's on Fridays. Is that right?
It's going to be like that. So every 2 weeks, basically. And yes, Fridays.
That's awesome, because we have a global community here who are probably watching this replay. So follow Philip on LinkedIn and find the event that matches your time zone and ask him any more questions that we don't get to today. You talked a little bit about experts getting paid for what they're worth. And I wondered if you had, because this group is about owning your personal brand, any insights or tips on feeling like an expert in your space? Because I think that sometimes imposter syndrome can help pull our pricing down.
You are always going to be tougher on yourself than any client could be, because let's look at it like this. It's a paradox, really. One that I like to talk about. If your client actually knew exactly what value they can get from you, they would know so much about what you do, they wouldn't need you in the first place, right? Clients don't know what you do. That's why they need an expert. If they were an expert, they could see where you did wrong, but then they wouldn't need you and they wouldn't even ask for you. You wouldn't be having that conversation.
Sure.
So that's not necessarily true if you sell potatoes or if you sell, I don't know, if you wash cars. But if you're an expert, if somebody's a potential client, by definition, they don't know what they're doing in your field. That's why they need you, right? Mm-hmm. So you're always going to be harder on yourself and your work. And this is good, basically, because the clients are not going to drive you. Your knowledge. You have to drive yourself. You have to basically work on bettering yourself. So there's usually you can confuse clients by being very, apologetic about it. Oh, sorry, this could have been better. Okay, I guess. Now I'm confused. There's nothing that seems to be wrong with it. And so how do you feel like an expert? There's always pay attention, basically. Pay attention, and you will see the moment where the light shines from their eyes when they say, oh yeah, that's what I should have done, right? And from then on, you basically look like an expert in their eyes. There's a trick also. I'm all about tricks. And basically the trick is to repeat their question or their query a little bit better than they phrased it. So this is a trick. It's not mine, but it's very useful. Basically, when you redefine the question in a manner that's actually clearer than the client said, the clearer than the client phrased it, you actually, in their eyes, you gain the status of an expert.
That is a good trick, everybody. And I think one of the things that I want, Philip talked about a lot of things there. One of the things that stood out for me is that you know more than the client in your given area of expertise. That does not mean that you know more than the client in every area of expertise, right? Like Philip works with lawyers, and I'm sure he doesn't know as much about the legal system as the lawyers do, but he knows a lot more about how to price their services. And so I think sometimes we forget this, right? As service providers, a lot of times I think we trend into, we need to know all of the things about all of the things. And we mentioned this already, like, I don't know all things about branding. I can't do graphic design, right? Like, I don't know everything about everything. I just know a lot of things about this very specific area. And so think about those things. What are the things where you know? Actually, I'll make a quick reference too, because I know Tara's on here and she mentioned this to me before, is that she's like, I didn't even notice that this was like so hard for other people because it comes so naturally to me. And so look at those things too. What are the things that come so naturally to you that you really don't even feel like it's a skill? And so again, you're like, oh, I'm in an imposter because this is just like a thing everybody does, but this isn't a thing that everybody does. Not everybody is good at all things, especially the things that you're good at. And those are the things that you want to get paid for. And Philip will help you get paid for those things. Paulina has a question. Paulina is asking, do you have any tips on pricing affiliate links? As in, I'm thinking of referring clients to other people in the beginning and was wondering about striking a deal with the people I recommend. Example, if someone books a service with them or buys a product from them following a link from my site to ask for a certain percentage for that transaction. Just an idea, as I'm clueless how this can work, but if you have any thoughts, I'd be interested.
But of course I do. Look,
Philip has thoughts on everything. This is one of the things you'll take away from today.
If you can basically connect them with the potential client, with a lead, and they have to arrange a meeting, that's one thing. If a meeting is already arranged, that's what your link does. That's something else. If you actually basically sell something, so that they click on your site and it's sold, the funds are transferred and everything is done, then it's quite another thing. So I'm going to have to go with the range here. So if it's not a sale, if it's something less than a sale, then you go through from basically 10 to 20%, 25, maybe 5% if it's very costly. So if somebody bought a car, you wouldn't go that high. But somewhere around there. And if it's a sale, then it can go up to like 40, something like that. It's hard to make a sale. People who never tried it don't know what that means. It doesn't matter even if you didn't do it in person. It's so everything else is easy up until you actually have to get somebody's money. And if you manage to do that, yes, you deserve quite a percentage. I hope I gave an answer here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. So Paulina, let us know if that made sense to you, if you want any more framing around that.
Yeah, please.
Something that I always think of when it comes to affiliates is that depending on, like Philip said, if you are sold, like if someone is sold because of me, if I looked at, like now my corporate background gets to come in, right? Like salespeople get paid 20 to 25% on average for a sale. That's their job. Their 100% job is to sell, and that's what they get paid. So if that is what you have done, if you have sold it to someone else, then you would get a commission. I envision it as a commission, right? So it depends on how much you're doing. Because if it's just, I'm going to put your link on my website, and if they go there, but then you still have to sell them, then maybe it's like a smaller amount. And Paulina, I know just too, because we talked about this the other day, is look at it from your perspective. How much of the work do you want to do, right? So on your website, you want to give people good recommendations of where to go. So there's probably a little bit of work you're going to do in interviewing those professionals and choosing who you're going to recommend, and how much of that, like how much work do you want to do as well. And maybe for different people, you would do a different amount of work. So I love the fact that Philip said a range, because define that from your perspective of how you want those relationships to be. And then you can decide that is worth X amount to whoever the partner is. Awesome. Tara has a comment about, she is like, yes. Also think about surrounding yourself with people that can be your mirror. So I think this is one of the things I would recommend to everybody in terms of having a coach in a specific area. So having someone like Philip help you with your pricing, or even when you look at it from your own perspective, right? Like you have your expertise in your area. If you can surround yourself with people who can mirror that, but not have the same expertise, but have the same kind of vibe and values and things like that, that helps you show up as an expert because you believe it more. Before we hop to the next question, I just want to add in here too, one of the things that always stays top of mind for me when I think about being an expert. When I was younger, I have a friend who runs an Arthur Murray franchise, which is ballroom dancing. And I did like tap and hip hop dancing growing up. So like I'm a dancer, but I'm not a ballroom dancer. And she was looking for teachers, and she interviewed a ton of people. And she was like, I just don't like any of these people. Will you just come and teach? And I was like, I don't know ballroom. And she's like, I can teach you ballroom, and then you'll know more than the students know. And I was like, oh, well, it was true. And like, I was skeptical at first because I was like, oh, how much can I learn? But because of what I know and my background, and even though it was different dance style, I could pick up the choreography faster, which means I could learn it before the students had to learn it. And I was always one step ahead of the students. And Philip mentioned something with his little trick about turning the question around and not turning it around, but making it more clear, is you know a little bit more than they do, which gives you the ability to do that. It gives you the ability to show them that you know more. And I'm probably a bad example of this because historically I was always a fan of showing people that I knew more than them. But there's also a way to do that, which is aligned with who you are as a personal brand. Okay, we have some clarifying comment here from Paulina. She says, thanks, Philip. It would be reference links to someone else's service. I already have really good professionals in mind. I need to work out how to organize the sales anywhere. I can look into more info on that, as I don't know much about leading people into booking systems, etc. I was thinking they follow the link I give them and book with the other person.
Okay, so that would be the basically the easier lead generation. Basically, that's good. That goes more automatically than sales, and it commands lower commission upon sales. So usually when you send leads, if they don't convert, if they don't sell, if the sale is not finished, then you don't get anything for them. That's the usual thing, or you do, but that's a very low amount of money, because you get profits for sharing the risk, right? It's, if you don't share much risk, then you don't get much profits. That's basically a standard kind of deal.
Ooh, this is a good point, Philip. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because there's not just price that goes into someone's price negotiation, right? So tell us more about that.
You're referring to the four costs, right?
I am referring to the four costs.
Okay. So anyway, when we say price and we're the seller, we see the let's say the dollar amount, right? But when we're the buyer, it's not the only thing that we see. For example, if you're in a hurry and you really need a cab, and you know of a few cab companies, and some of them are always on time, but a little bit pricier, and the other ones are not always on time and a little bit cheaper. Since you're in a hurry, you don't really care about the $2 difference in price. You want to be there on time, but it's a higher price. No, it's not. The dollar amount is higher, but your worry about not making it in time makes it the more expensive one in the dollar amount, the cheaper option. Or so you have basically the money cost, the time cost, the worry cost, or the risk avoidance cost, as you like, and the ego cost. And the last one is basically the most fun to talk about, because people don't say what. And well, I always say, if you were on a date and in an expensive restaurant, and somebody came up to you and said, look, I'm going to pay for the whole meal for the both of you, but you have to let me humiliate you in front of everybody. So it's a zero money cost. Is it the cheapest option? Not in my book, no. I think that's the most expensive option. And here you pay with your ego, basically, right? So you've got time, you got worry. The worry is the reason why most people don't go to the cheapest dentist.
I love the example about the dentist.
Yeah, well, so basically, money cost, time cost, worry cost, and ego cost all together form something that we as a buyer call price. So a lot of clients ask me, how does it work? I mean, it's the internet, anybody can find a cheaper, coach, let's say. Why would they buy from me? And the answer is, well, you have to show up, as Tracy would say, in a way that communicates there are some other differences between you and your competitors, not just the dollar amount, right? And if you can manage to do that, then they will passively know that it's not always exactly about the dollar amount. If you look interchangeable with everybody else, yes, then it's only the price. So don't look interchangeable.
Well, I'm a big fan of that, obviously, because I don't believe in people being copies of copies. But do you have any other thoughts or tips, Philip, on how to look not interchangeable when it comes to the price?
The most important thing is not to try to catch everybody. So like I said at the beginning, I work with experts. I work with specialists. Sometimes people say, can you help me be a more expensive, I don't know, lawyer? Sure. So who are we talking to? Who are we trying to basically communicate to that you are not a lawyer number 705-B, right? That you're a person. Well, clients, okay? That's like saying, can you help me catch fish? Sure. Which fish? Fish. Well, I realize that's not giraffes, okay? But it can be tuna, it can be sardines, it can be, I don't know, some freshwater pike. I mean, it's not really the same. And if I'm helping you catch tuna, I'm dragging you away from somebody else. It's scary to specialize, but it's necessary, because you can't, like Tracy said, you can't be a specialist for everything. That's a contradiction in terms. So even if you have to say to yourself, right now I can only specialize in this problem, do that. Specialize in one problem. There's a global market out there. There's enough people for everybody. There's not enough experts. There's no shortage of people who want to solve everything, right? I can do your prices and your Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, sure, I can do too. I can also cook. That's really not something that shows how unique you are. That means you're just trying to be many cogs at once. And I mean, just imagine if you were shopping for, I don't know, a florist, right, or a photographer, and they also offered to cook you dinner, or to take you skydiving, to teach you skydiving. And yeah, thanks. Now I don't want anything. So specialize.
Yeah. And I think this is just so important, right? Because again, sometimes we think we have to do all of the things, and that is not the point. And I talk to a lot of marketing service providers, and there are a lot of marketing service providers in this group. And being a graphic designer or being a copywriter or being a social media manager does not mean that you have to be a brand identity coach, right? Like, if you like that and you're very good at that, then you can do that, but you don't have to be that. You don't have to be that also to believe that people should have that, right? So like, I'm not a pricing coach. I've told you guys lots of times I'm not a pricing coach, even though people constantly ask me for help on their pricing. Philip is a pricing expert. I'm a brand identity expert. There are graphic design experts. And this is where we all get to just live in our zone of genius and talk about what we're good at, and then create your pricing based on what you're good at, not all the things people need. Because if people need more things, then they will go and find an expert who does that thing. And if you can have, like we were talking about referrals, right? Like, have relationships, build a network of people who can support you in the things that you don't want to do. This is why I network with graphic designers, because I want to know good graphic designers, but I don't want to do graphic design. We don't have to be everything. And even because I don't think anybody watching live is a virtual assistant, but I know there are quite a few virtual assistants in the group too. Just because you're a virtual assistant and you can do lots of things doesn't mean you have to do all the things. Doesn't mean you are a specialist in lots of things. You're still a specialist in something. So explore what that is, and then go talk to Philip about how he can help that show up in your pricing. Any final words that you would like to give our listeners today, Philip?
Specialization is scary, really scary. I know that. I see that in clients, but you can specialize in a problem like you and I do, or you can specialize in a niche like, I don't know, marketing for lawyers, right? Or copywriting for house appliances or whatever. There can be many ways of mixing and matching, but it's the only way not to end up on Fiverr.
And that's not the point of everybody in this group, hopefully. It's just to end up on Fiverr. Thank you, Philip, for your great insights today. You guys, I definitely recommend following Philip. He has all the good stuff about pricing. He is also our expert pricing peep in your Business Peeps community. So if you guys are in there, reach out to him and ask him your pricing questions. That's it for pricing today. Let us know if you want more pricing. I'm sure you do. Everybody always wants pricing. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Philip. We'll chat again soon.
Everything changes.